My protesting swag.
Excellent. Did you go to Monterey City Council today?
I did not, but I emailed them, yes. Yeah.
So you did?
Yeah.
Did they vote? Did they agree
They
on
did
it?
not, they tabled it because it looked like it was gonna be 2-2, so they want to wait for Barbara, Dr. Kim Barbara to be there. She was not there.
They tabled it.
They tabled it.
I'll even,
It says they need Kim Barbara. She just wanted to have great crosswalks.
so let's continue. We're going to flip to the other side of the paper now that we've gone over our warm-up and done our community building. I'm so happy to be part of this community, by the way. Thanks again for coming. I was inspired to protest. I've been protesting like on and off because just friends, like I care about people, you know? I listen to people and I care about people. I'll even listen to people, I'll even listen to Trumpsters. But it does take a lot of like emotional toll on us, right? To speak with somebody who maybe hasn't opened themselves up to be vulnerable and think about other perspectives. But like through protesting and through, as a teacher, seeing failed attempts by students to protest effectively, I've really reflected a lot on how to protest well, and I want to learn from everybody here because there's so much experience here. You know, I've been reading about times like the Vietnam War and how difficult that was for trailblazers. Thank you. So these are some points that I've learned, and are we filming right now? Okay, so while I bring it up, if you consent to be filmed, then please jump in and ask any questions. I like to have a lively discussion. The community circle with the talking piece is not my usual style, which is more boisterous. I can speak in a teacher voice and get us all back together. But these are some things I've learned about how to protest. Before you protest, prepare a clear message with concise and credible information. I have walked up to protesters and asked them what they're doing, and they can't articulate it. And I ask them where they're basing their decisions off of, and they can't cite a source. And it makes me less trusting of their ability to. I mean, it seems like why go through all that trouble to protest if you don't know what it is you're doing? Also, before you go to protest, bring appropriate noisemakers, because you got to get the message across. Notify and involve others. That's what we're trying to do here, I think. A lot of us here are trying to involve other people, and including the press, which is why I think that opening up, you know, and just making sure you get consent from everybody involved. It's a clear message. We're trying to avoid harm as much as possible while getting our effective message across. So if you'd be harmed, if you're concerned about being harmed by being filmed, then you know that is a matter of consent. And then another point is, this is maybe for younger people, but bring or memorize 3 phone numbers in case something does happen. A lot of people younger or maybe new to this country don't know their own number. Their own phone number, and so it's important to have other people's numbers memorized, and Alex will go into more details about why it's important to have numbers memorized when we live in an age where you might have multiple phones. And then also bring your basic human needs, you know, water, snacks, weather appropriate clothing, trash bag, because you want to be safe and take care of the environment, and to get your message across appropriately, you want to be kind to everybody and lead with the heart, including the planet. Any comments from anybody who does consent to be on video now? Yes?
Thank you very much for including being respectful or loving to the planet. I want to share that the last big gathering they had at Window on the Bay, where there were 3,686 people tallied. I was the last one to leave because of something I was doing, and I chose to sit there and just kind of be for a minute. And I noticed there wasn't a single scrap of garbage, not a single one. And I didn't think to take a picture. But when, and I know this is a nonpartisan activity, but when Bernie Sanders was here speaking at Colton Hall before, the same thing, that everything was put in the receptacles, nothing was. So I love that without a reminder from the microphone, people just did that.
That's so lovely.
Yay, community.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex R. So I'm Alex number 2 here today. And I'm on my phone because I really got a lot of this information from some activist organizations that I follow that really got me interested in this topic in the first place, especially if I was going to start protesting or attending protests. But my topic is mainly on protecting your privacy as well as other people's privacy when attending public protesting. So one of the concerns mainly is our phones, and there's different things we could do within our phone before the protests and during protests to make sure we're protecting our privacy, our data on our phone, and other people's data. So one thing you could do is just not take your phone in the first place and have like a prepaid phone if you wanted to have something for communication. Another thing you could do is if you're going to take your phone, turn off Bluetooth and have it on airplane mode. You could also, if you know, disable 2G on your phone. There's some different kinds of technology the police may have that can track phone usage through that kind of network. So you could do that. And also, for sure, you want to turn off your location services. Location services, so GPS services, anything like that on any kind of app, and your whole phone to turn it off. Different apps ask permission to use location services, whether when you're using the app or not using the app. But your phone will track you, especially if you have an iPhone and you have Find My iPhone or the way to find it if you lost it, you can turn off location services on there as well. Okay, different things you can do to protect the data that's on your phone is making sure that you have a strong password, not Face ID, not your fingerprint, a strong, like numeric or alphanumeric password.
Something in your brain that the police can't access.
Because if it's like your Face ID, like they can bring it up to you or use your fingerprint.
Oh, wow.
They're allowed to,
Yeah.
but they're not allowed to ask you, make you put in your code.
There's other things you could do, like limiting, I said, app permissions, because they trace where you are, what things you look up online. And then make sure you back up the data that you have on your phone somewhere else in case you do lose your phone or you won't have access to it anymore. There's also, in case you're interested, there's different kinds of apps that we can use when messaging that's way more safer than your regular phone call or regular SMS texting. One of those is Signal. They have very good encrypted messaging and calling and video chatting. So in case you know about that app, it's like...
I've heard of it.
Yeah,
somewhere.
It sounds very familiar.
Where have we heard of it?
Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about is protecting your privacy. And if you're attending a protest and you don't want to stand out in the crowd, wear neutral colors, neutral clothing. You can wear a face mask and or sunglasses. There's different kinds of drones and different kinds of technology some police may have access to that can do facial recognition or has facial recognition software. And so wearing different like face coverings, especially ones with very like intricate patterns, really messes up those softwares. They're not advanced enough to be able to like track or get any information from your face like that. So when in doubt, like something neutral but with like an intricate pattern on it. Thinking about how to get to the protest, you could leave your car at home, which is preferable, use public transportation or something like that.
But I didn't know that about having an intricate pattern on the mask, but that makes sense because so AI, like facial recognition software must be able to reconstruct the shape of people's like noses and whatnot if they just have like one color mask. Wow.
If you are planning to get arrested or commit civil disobedience, and we're not even talking about that, but if, for instance, the police thought we were, because we suddenly got shoved out by a crowd of people into the street, and so then the police said, that's a misdemeanor, you're in the street. And then it is a good thing to have a piece of identification on yourself. In fact, if you can show it to them, they'll just probably write you a ticket. If you don't show them that piece of identification, they will probably take you to jail. And so there are places you can put it in the bottom of your shoe, your driver's license or something. I mean, be creative, and you don't have to show them anything, but the ACLU says that if you do plan to get arrested or put yourself in a position where you probably might, then it's important to have a piece of identification on you, because that really minimizes what they will do.
So what I'm getting from that, right, is that if you want to remain anonymous while protesting, that if you get the sense that the protest, if it feels like it's going that way, if there's somebody in the crowd that is making it unsafe or the crowd's getting too big or out of control, then if you want to remain anonymous, you need to get out of there.
Yeah.
Or the police.
Or
If no one's doing anything, but the police decide.
I had a quick tip. If you have an iPhone and you don't have your Face ID disabled, if you hit that right-hand button 5 times, it will disable it. So in case you forget to do it, any kind of police-related incident where they want your phone at one, At least for mine, you might want to try that out. But that's a good tip in case, because you can do that as you pull it out of your pocket or whatever. I don't know about other phones, but they may very well do the same thing. So.
Great tip.
how to engage with law enforcement or talk to the police. I am not necessarily an expert, but I know some policemen and I know somebody in federal law enforcement, and my friend in federal law enforcement said, remind people not to talk to the police. If you can avoid it, if you're protesting, like you don't need to talk to the police, and it's especially true if you have concerns about your legal rights, and there are many resources available to help inform you of your rights. We offer them here at Monterey Peace and Justice Center. We have the red cards. We have ACLU's Know Your Rights for demonstrating and for talking to the police. We won't go over these in great detail today, but they're available, ACLU, and also the red cards, which are created by the Immigrant Legal Resource Center and promoted throughout Monterey County. If you do want to be part of the legal, the response network, the Monterey County Rapid Response Network, they offer great trainings. And if you have any concerns about ICE, so like immigration officials, I kind of have this concern because I'm an American citizen protesting, and I feel a little in danger right now. Your rights are in these red cards, your rights are provided by the ACLU, and in Monterey County, if there is any concern about deportation, you can call, like if you see something, you can call this number, 831-204-8082, and the Monterey County Rapid Response Network will come out and document what's happening to make sure that everything is within your legal rights. But right now, what we're going to do is a little practice of helpful phrases to talk to the police, especially for English learners. Vamos a practicar algunas frases para los que están aprendiendo inglés. Please repeat. Am I free to go?
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 Yeah. And if the police respond that you are free to go, say, since I am free, I am walking away.
Since I am free, I am walking away.
And walk away slowly. Yeah, so let's repeat that again. Since I am free, I am walking away.
Since I am free, I am walking away.
And if you are not free to go, and this applies to people who are concerned about like immigration or any interaction with the police where you think you might be detained. If they say you are not detained, you might not necessarily be in legal trouble, but you can, if you feel like you might be in legal trouble, then please repeat. I want to remain silent.
I want to remain silent.
I want to see a lawyer.
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 You have the right to a lawyer. If you don't have one will be provided for you. I do not consent to a search.
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 Yeah. So let's practice those with a partner.
Yeah, so way back in the early 70s, I was in a group with Susan, Cher, and Alan Massaoka, and Richard V.A., and Deborah V. And we learned how, because that was during the Vietnam War. And we were trained in how to go in, that's peaceful. Not resistance. If they come for you, you smile at them, you talk to them, you say, isn't it a beautiful day? I mean, you can talk to the police, you can just you can sweep them off your feet. But you just don't walk to the place that they're trying to put you, and so they can arrest you for that. Well, it never happened that I went because I had little kids, and I think your kids were little too. So, and then years passed, and then I was a support person at Mercury, which is just north, I think, of Las Vegas, and that's where the underground nuclear testing was. And we had a big group of protesters and I had already decided my kids were still teenagers. I couldn't, because you can't tell how long you might get incarcerated. They might, So I was going to do that. And I was so disappointed. I mean, I got to be a support person for my housemate, B. But, and so then finally in 1995, I went to Livermore Labs. It was the 50th anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And we hadn't planned, so I went with Ed Leeper, laying down in the street in front of the tanks vein, in a 4th of July parade, back when we used to have tanks rolling down the street of Monterey. After that, it went away, but anyway, so I was with Ed, and then my friend Jacqueline Smith Woodward, who founded uh, nuclear weapons freeze, nuclear weapons freeze. Anyway, we went up there. We didn't have any intention really to do anything except just peacefully protest. But it was such a lovely gathering. It was huge. There were lots and lots and lots of people. And we went over to where people were getting arrested. They were just kneeling down next to the curb that was right in front of the entrance to the Livermore Labs. And they were being arrested, but very gently by the police. And Ed turned to Jacqueline, who was standing next to him, and said, "Let's get arrested." And Jacqueline turned to me and she said, "Shall we get arrested?" And I said, "Well, you know, you guys are my ride." Yeah, sure. And so we knelt down right there and they arrested us. So then, mind you, on August 5th or 6th at Livermore, it's very, very hot. But they had provided their little substation, which they had right there. Oh no, they put us on the, that's right, they handcuffed us and put us on a little bus and they took us to their little substation at Livermore. And then they got us out and there was a big pen that was heavy chain link fence stuff all around. But they had a canopy over the top to keep us nice and cool, or as cool as possible. And it was like a circus tent. And in the middle they had a big Alhambra water dispenser that had flowers on it. And there were Dixie cups that had flowers on them. And they were playing jazz. It was coming out of this military, I mean, you know, it wasn't military, but it was the police substation. And it was like a garden party. There were about 50 of the 200, 300, 400 people who came to the protest who got arrested. And we were all in there, we were talking and walking around. And then the police came and they, one by one, took us to the commanding guy. And he gave us our mugshot and they fingerprinted us. But the police were so sweet. They were just wonderful with us. And I know they felt kind of embarrassed. And maybe they knew because we had a permit to be on that street because it was completely blocked off for this event. And then anyway, so then as I was walking back with my arresting, the guy that was going to put me back on the bus. Oh, while we were there, I said, about to have our mugshots, I said, can he be, I feel like I'm out at a prom. Can he be in the mugshot with me? He was very cute. Anyway, and then we started walking back and I said, isn't it wonderful that we live in a place where you as policemen have been trained to be so genteel and wonderful, and in your arrest of us, you're doing your job. This is something you've been told you have to do, and I'm doing my job, which is to be a protester, and we can do that, and we can be friends. And I kind of linked my arm in his, and he walked me to the bus, and we hugged goodbye, and literally hugged. You know, and I got on the bus, but it was so beautiful. And then Jacqueline, everybody got on the bus who had been arrested, and then they took us back to our starting point where our cars were. We got in our cars, and Ed said, "Wasn't that wonderful? Wasn't that great?" And it was a very, very, it was like a peak experience. And so anyway, I highly, yeah, I think even an arrest, you can turn it into whatever you want it to be, largely. But of course, it helped tremendously that they'd had a lot of practice at Livermore. You know, bringing in arrested people. Oh, and by the way, then we had our tickets, our citations, and then we were supposed to go to court. And mind you, that was in August. Our court date wasn't until November. And the judge at that time said he dressed down the Livermore people and the police. He said, why are you wasting my time with stuff like this? They had a permit to be on that street. You said that it was because they were blocking traffic. They weren't. And even if they had been, there was no traffic. There deliberately wasn't any. And he said, I don't want any more of this stuff. This is a waste of the taxpayers' money. And he really dressed them down and he said, dismissed, and that was the end of it. It was over. So, yeah, it was a good experience.
I really wanted Sidney to share that story. Thank you for sharing. It gave me a lot of hope for
Yeah.
protesting and
Yeah.
if things do go up.
But I want to say that, you know, here in Monterey, I think we're very fortunate, and probably in Salinas too, we're likely to have police who, even if they are directed to arrest any troublemakers, and I think they would try to limit it definitely to that. But most of the time, if we're peaceful and we exude good, loving friendship towards the police. I mean, did any of you see on the news, there was a woman in Tennessee who was in her 80s, her early 80s, and she had gone to a town hall meeting, and then it didn't happen because the representative didn't show up or something like that. And so she was just sitting there on these sort of pew-like benches. And everybody else had left and she was still sitting there, and they told her she had to leave, and she was sort of like, you know, it's not over yet. You know, it's supposed to last us. And they sent in the police and she went limp. And she was little and lithe, and these guys picked her up, and she was smiling at them and talking to them. You couldn't hear what she was saying, but you could tell she was just being as sweet as anything and smiling. And they were like, you know, and they were so gentle with her. They were so gentle with her. So